Happy Thanksgiving or happy post Thanksgiving. We're in
Happy
the home stretch here of the season. How's it going?
GM. Hope everybody had an awesome Thanksgiving and, lost all their money like I did. Felt really good going into the night game and this wasn't prepared for the Mac show.
Oh, baby, Justin Jefferson was the smash of all smashes, but yeah, I was not expecting to have to need everybody from that game. Um,
Yeah.
did all right on the slate, which is always nice. I mean, it's always good to not go -1 on a hard slate. Three gamers, I think, are always, like they always seem easy, but they're definitely hard because you have to get pretty close to the nuts.
Yeah.
Slate, I don't think is that way, even though it looks like it's going to be pretty high scoring because DraftKings really took everyone's feedback on like softening salaries. So I think that makes this week like fairly important to get right.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get into it, but yeah, the story of the week is the value. Too much running back value for DraftKings. We want more value, but not too much value. Can you just zero in and get it exactly right?
Yeah. I don't think they can. It's kind of all or
They
nothing.
can.
So you've got it all this week. So starting at quarterback, there's not going to be any huge condensing chalk, and I do think if there is one, it's going to end up being Geno Smith, which is like gross to say, and I guess we probably felt that way week whatever it was 3 or 4 against the Lions. It is a good matchup, it's a good price, but there's just a bunch of QBs that I like, don't love this week. So I'm curious. Like, I don't think I'm going to let ownership decide too much what I do at quarterback, but I think there's like at least 5, if not more, guys that are all like fairly in play this week.
Yeah, I agree. I do think Gino and Tua, I'm not sure which one, but I do think that those are going to be the top owned QBs. And depending on how these, weather games shape up in pregame and what people see on their TVs,
Oh yeah,
those two seem to be in better situations. They're both outdoors, but Gino's got a little bit of light rain, I think, and Tua, I think maybe is totally clean, if not a little shower. But
yeah. I
yeah,
guess we can
Tua
look
should
at
be
the weather
totally
too.
clean. And I
Yeah,
also
Trey.
think that could
Who
push some
you?
people onto Mahomes as well.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, even though there's a bunch of value, it's hard to pay all the way up for Mahomes in a game where they won't be pushed, type of thing,
Right,
which I think is the
right.
narrative. But like that's why QB ownership I think is very flat. If I'm building along in cash, I think Gino's probably going to end up being it unless you end up finding yourself with room, and then like you could pay up for Kyler, who's going to be in the dome. I wonder what Cardi thinks of like Gino versus Kyler, or if he's going to go off the board somewhere else. But yeah,
Yeah,
like Kyler, Burrow, Mahomes, I think are all very in play, and then you can kind of
yeah,
make a contrarian case as you go down the list.
yeah, for sure. I definitely didn't mean Mahomes for cash. I don't think there's
No,
any
no.
real point of doing that, but I do think that even though he's 8,200 with this much value on the slate, and also like people have this thing set in their minds where like the Chiefs are going to score 5 touchdowns, like just period, like every
Yeah.
week, like no matter how much of a blowout or how much they're pushed. So you could tell yourself a story with the value that's out there that hey, he could pay off his tag.
Yeah.
So I expect him to be popular in tournaments.
I'll rip off of Roth on RG just to look at the weather quickly because like we haven't talked about it. I don't. I think AI let like totals dictate it, so keep an eye on the totals. Like I have the totals updated as of a few minutes ago, so if those change between now and lock, keep that in mind. Um, Baltimore Jacksonville, like that's not a game that I'm super into anyway, and like I don't think wind matters for how either of those teams wants to play. Tampa, Cleveland, maybe some gusts, but again, like I don't think either team is a deep passing game. And even if you want to play Tampa, like even if you want to play Brady, I don't like wind doesn't scare me off of Brady and Godwin and Evans in the way that they do things. Stop me if like you disagree with any of these.
No,
Otherwise, I'll kind of speed through it. Chicago at the Jets. I do not think that this matters at all. Like this game is not very exciting, and like if anything, it helps. Like the only guys in play I guess Garrett Wilson gets some, but I don't. Rain doesn't matter to me.
Forgot about Garrett Wilson because of
Yeah,
the cash. Yeah, that would worry me for him.
yeah. Rain doesn't worry me a lot. I think I've seen studies where rain doesn't really impact totals. If you remember, and this is just like an outlier, but like the last year's week 16 or whatever Seattle Detroit game, it was like 36 degrees and like pouring rain and windy, and that game went off for like 70 points, very
Yeah,
infamously for Liam. So I think rain, like anecdotally, like the receiver knows where he's going, the DB doesn't know where he's going, so it's easier for Garrett Wilson to like make his cuts than whoever's
yeah,
covering him. So if rain is going lower, Garrett Wilson, I'll allow it to happen. The one that I'm like curious about is Cincinnati, Tennessee, because that's one where there's going to be some ownership versus the other games here, not a ton. Where Burrow, I think, is interesting people, Pirine, Boyd, Higgins. It looks like not that bad. 15
yeah,
sustained, dropping to 10 by the end of the game.
yeah.
So I'm unless like this total was at like open at 43, still at 43, give or take a half point. If that drops to 41 or something, like maybe do something about it. But for now, I'm just gonna ignore and hope that it leads to like a decrease in ownership, if anything, like because people are gonna start to overthink it.
Right.
So that was talking weather for the first time. Willis, GM, congrats on min cash or whatever we did with the lineup that we built on Thursday. Hopefully everybody
Congrats, Willis.
hopefully
Thanks
everyone
for
followed
pinch.
along. We got
Thanks for pinch hitting for me, Willis. It seemed like you guys had a good, fun show.
dude, that
Sure, I
was
couldn't
like
be here.
that's like Matt Stairs. You remember Matt Stairs on the Phillies pinch
Oh
hit?
yeah,
Like that was that level of pinch hit, I think. So anyway, so quarterback, I
oh yeah.
think it's gonna be like you're probably gonna want to be around that 6K range. We'll talk about like pivots as we play GPP game. Running back, we're back to 3 running back week for sure after several weeks of 2 tight ends, and I'm here for it. Jeff Wilson is probably the best play we've seen all year. I mean, 5,900 projecting for close to 22 points, which I don't know if that's right or wrong, but even if it's like anywhere close to right, that's just absurd. And at 42%, that may even be too low. But you've got like an excess of guys like let's say Michael Carter up. So like you got what is this like 15, 16 guys, 17 guys that are all in the conversation. I'm gonna go narrower pool, but like Jeff Wilson and Rashad White are like play of the year type guys, and then you can talk yourself into P. Ryan, Connor, Eckler, Latavius Murray, Kenneth Walker, like all of these guys. This is probably the top tier. I think these like 6, 7 guys.
Yeah, I totally agree. Jeff Wilson is definitely the play of the year, which is why I'm completely bracing myself to have that go sideways somehow.
Oh, it's Alec and Gold.
It just looks like it's already done. Like I can already see the box score and it's over. Like I don't see how that's different. And whenever that's the case, it's just very scary. I think you can easily tell yourself a story that Samaje Perine is just a piece of garbage and isn't going to put up numbers that actually matter. So for me, he's the easiest guy to get out of here. And then I originally thought Latavius Murray at 20+% was that guy too. But
Yeah.
the more I've thought about it, the more I actually like him because he is the cheapest one. And he also has, a coach that I just don't think he's going to get screwed. Like, I don't think Marlon Mack is going to take serious stuff away from him, and he's going to get the dump
Mhm.
offs that he keeps getting. And he's just a good play. You don't have to be that talented or young and spry.
No.
Usage and opportunity is enough in most cases, except if you're Samaje Perine.
Yeah, I think as you like talking in like smaller field stuff and single entries and things like that, even like large field single entries, people have been like Jeff Wilson is going to be 50, 60 plus percent.
Right.
Um, Rashad White, people have been excited to play this guy all year, and
Yeah.
you get him at 5,100 in like a pretty decent spot. So I think he's going to be like in the millie, he might be 25, 30, or maybe even as low as 20% because people like to spread it. But like small field single entry, he's going to be the second click. Piran, I think, will get squeezed down a bit, but probably right around that 20. Latavius Murray, man, like I thought earlier in the week before everything opened up, like he'd be like the easiest fade, but I don't think people are gonna click Latavius
Yeah,
Murray, and like I don't want to do it, but
right.
Latavius Murray is just like a bet on the other guys possibly failing and him just like keeping up, right? In like a 15-point kind of game. It's
Yeah,
hard to see the ceiling because like he's Latavius Murray and like that game total is a 36.5, which is like the lowest, but I don't know. Like Latavius Murray can suck and he can still get there because 4 targets is in like this kind of usage that he got last week is
right.
going to get you there
And
all day.
and they really want to run the ball in the red zone because Russ continuously throws, gets picked off in the red zone and stuff. So like they really do want to run at least once or twice in the red zone. They've shown.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It seems like a good spot.
Are you who's your favorite like besides the like outside of that 5K range?
Oh, like to spend a little bit. I
Yeah, to
think.
spend
I mean, I love Kenny Walker. Everybody knows I love Kenny Walker. People got on me, get mad that I was drafting Kenny Walker when I should have waited for him to drop more because he was hurt. But I think Ken Walker's in a great spot. I don't know that he's in the spot that Cardi has him in. Like he has him as basically the top RB of the slate. Like his projection is insane. I don't know.
what does he
Apparently
have him for?
Vegas is really bad. Let's see. He is projected for 22.44 points with a ceiling over 33.
Yeah. I mean Vegas has definitely
So
given
I
up.
should have said points per dollar. Not
Yeah. I mean
Eckler
still.
is projecting higher and stuff, but his projection is very good, and I'm definitely going to play some. Um, I have yet to build a CMC lineup, but I want to build a CMC lineup.
Yep.
Obviously the Eli stuff is scary. I will have some Derrick Henry just because I'm playing a lot of Bengals stuff, and James Conner. Since James Conner has gotten fully, a full clear bill of health, and they got rid of Eno, like
Yeah.
he's really a big part of their offense, and the Chargers I don't think can do very much to
No, and
stop that. So, and then you could tell yourself a story with Rondale out, Dortch out. Kyler already likes to check quite a bit to Connor. I think he's in a good spot.
yeah, I'm with you there. I'm curious. Like the decision for me is going to be like I think Jeff Wilson. I'm going to probably just play him in every lineup. Rashad
Same.
White is more of a question to me because, a like the scoring expectation is just so much higher for Miami than Tampa Bay, and B like there is
Yeah.
no one behind Jeff Wilson, and we've seen them use Jeff Wilson. We've not seen Tampa commit to Rashad White.
Right.
It would not surprise me to A, see Tampa like fail, or B, like do
Right.
some Giovanni Bernard stuff, Keyshawn Vaughn stuff, pass game. Like there's just a lot more ways that Rashad White goes sideways. It's a really good price. I'm going to probably be around with the field, maybe slightly over. But to me, what's interesting is like, do you go? Is it more interesting to go like fade Rashad White and play, let's say Michael Carter or Isaiah Pacheco or like Antonio Gibson and just be like, I'll give up 3-4 expected points and just instead of eating 30% ownership, I'm going to eat 5% for the same price, or paying up for the Eckler, James Conner guys. But like I think that I'm going to try to limit my Wilson plus Rashad White combos
Right.
unless I'm going really off the board elsewhere.
Yeah, I think that is totally the right move. Yeah, Rashad White just doesn't scare me in terms of putting up this insane game. He obviously is a great talent, and if he gets the full Lenny role, that seems like a great role. But
Yeah,
at the end of the day, Tampa's offense is still not just pouring on points and still has its struggles. Now they're coming out of a bye,
yeah,
and apparently Tom Brady has quite a record coming out of a bye. Just with them playing better and stuff like that. So it's a good spot, but there's nothing to show me that Rashad White's just going to pour 40 on you or something crazy.
yeah,
Like he could have a nice game and go for 20 points and you're still alive.
yeah. I mean, 20 points does a lot for you at 5,100, but you can also
Yeah.
fade it. You have to just kind
Right.
of hope he doesn't get you to the like 25 or whatever where you need him. And then there's
Right.
a bunch of these guys in the 6K range, which are like very uninteresting for a number of reasons. Well, Josh Jacobs actually is one that keep an eye out for like late swaps. We'll talk about that game, but like
Yeah.
nobody's clicking Josh Jacobs because of the uncertainty around his
Yeah,
health.
Saturday injury news is scary.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's going
I
to be
agree.
weird. Yeah.
I agree. Um, at receiver, we've gotten a lot more guys that are like viable in that 6K range that we're used to. Like in the old days, like I feel like Chris Godwin used to always be 6K, and lo and behold, he's 6K. Um, Garrett Wilson is going to be the chalk because he's the cheapest like guy you feel decent about. And there's narrative around Mike White is going to be like super good for the pass game. So I don't know. That seems like kind of fragile chalk playing 28% own Garrett Wilson, but you probably just jam him into cash. Keenan Allen is another guy that I'm not super scared of beating me, but he's going to be in that build. Like there's a lot of these guys, like DeAndre Hopkins is in a good spot with those injuries. Devontae Adams, with Josh Jacobs uncertainty. So like that's where I think a lot of the ownership is going to be at. It's going to be Garrett Wilson, and then you pay up at the other two because running back allows you to get cheap and save money for these receivers.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I just found out yesterday that Juju is alive and is playing.
Yeah.
And I am shocked that he is not in the cash chalky situation. I mean, if you look at his arc before getting injured,
Mm-hmm.
like, you could make a case that he's going to be almost 7K at this point. Just the way that his arc of game logs was going and hit the target level and stuff like that. And now, like,
Mm-hmm.
you got Hardman out and Tony, the next man up, Tony's out. Like, I'm gonna be playing a lot of Juju, or should I? Did he earn his name back with these good games,
We'll see. We'll
or
see.
is it Juju?
I don't know
I
if you
don't
can get
know,
Wally
but
Pippen out of a nickname.
I'm gonna have quite a bit. I like Juju here. It's well, I mean, I never really liked Juju, but my main point is that Juju's price does not seem correct to me. It seems very
Yeah,
off.
I'm curious. I'm curious
So
if like we can hear from Leone or someone to see like are they baking in any injury uncertainty about Juju? But like he left with a concussion, so presumably
yeah,
if he plays, he's 100%. I don't know if they're
yeah,
like 10% re-injury risk docking it. So I don't know if this is a full projection or not. I can't speak to it, but yeah, I mean it's like every team, especially in cash, is going to have two of these 6K plus guys, and I think in GPPs as well. So getting price pivots, like whether it's Josh Palmer, Juju, Cortland Sutton, like there's a lot of like you're gonna have to sell yourself a story on playing these like second tier receivers, I think, but like relatively speaking, running back chalk is generally better than receiver chalk because range of outcomes is just much tighter with running backs, right? Like running back scores get there because they touch the ball 20, 25 times. A receiver, top of the line receiver touches the ball 10 times. And like some of the guys we're talking about, it's like 6 touches is going to put you to like be a good play. So that's why I like to eat the running back chalk, and receiver is easier to get off the board.
yeah. Put TD's comment on here. I mean, come on, TD. Do you not think that has anything to do with how pricing structure works and stuff? Like, of course it does.
Yeah,
Look at Justin Fields.
I think I love game logs because it's just like easy way to illustrate the point. It's not the be all end all, but it's definitely how they get the pricing. But I think what you were saying is like Juju was growing into a bigger role, like
His
as
role
that
was
team, like
rising. Yeah,
yeah, as the team is like getting banged up, and like if he's out there, I think that makes sense. Like MVS gets like no, um, he gets
right.
no targets. He's
He's
just
kind
back to
of,
the MVS of old, like the just running sprints.
and then this is one thing where, I'm glad that I don't play cash for certain situations like
I
this.
should
Like,
plug my cash guys in.
because everybody's going to play Garrett Wilson. Now, again, weather withstanding, like the Jets game looks like the worst weather game of the bunch. And, you know, obviously, you made your comments about the weather not changing the total and there's still shootout and stuff, but there are things that the weather does to some coaches and things like that. Who
Sure.
knows
Yeah, no,
how
that's fair.
Robert Saleh thinks about the weather and if that
That's fair.
has him consolidate his offense and blah blah blah. So anyway, I'm glad I don't have to make that decision because, the 28% is enough for me to just go, well, I would much rather play Treylon
Oh
Burks
yeah, that's
under
an easy.
10%. I would much rather play Matt Collins. These two are direct pivots that are under
Yeah,
10, under 5%, that are just, they're the same play
yeah.
ultimately, in my
Nico
opinion.
Collins too. Even like you can
Yeah,
like as
Nico. I mean,
a
Kyle
as
Allen, who knows? Get the new quarterback narrative.
Demarcus
Um,
Robinson, fine. Trent Irwin, by the way, is like the only. Oh, you also have Trent Irwin is at 3K, and I think Justin Watson is at 3K.
and Sky Moore. Again, talking about game log arcs, like if you watch these, I mean, you did watch them because they're all island games, but
Yeah, yeah.
Sky Moore's arrow is definitely pointing up, and I definitely see that during the week in practice, they're just like, look, this guy is fired up. He gives us a spark. He's like super energetic. Him and Pacheco are just like they won the Super Bowl every time they gained 7 yards, and I
Hmm.
think that they really like that, and I think that that's earning him more targets.
Yeah.
So
So
I personally, if I was going to punt there, I would punt Sky Moore over Justin Watson. To be honest with you.
okay. I don't know that I have a strong take. I would lean Watson. I think the certainty of the snaps is going to be higher, but we'll get to that more in the stacks. But I think to your point, like a very easy thing to do in GPP is to get off a 20-25% Garrett Wilson. I don't know that he's going to be all the way at 28, but like 25, like let's say Wilson, Burks, Mac Hollins. Um, it's not 33% each, but like Wilson is not, it's maybe it's 40-30-30 or something, right? Or like 40-35-25, like something. It's not like the spread and like who wins out of these three. It's like Garrett Wilson wins it like barely more than 1/3 of the time. Um,
Yeah,
so eating this kind of ownership when you have like direct price pivots to give up a point and a half of projection is nothing. It's a catch. It's less than a catch even.
yeah,
Um, at tight end, so we're not doing the two tight end thing this week. At least I'm not. But Mark Andrews and Travis Kelsey, you can afford them because of the running back stuff and because like if you play a cheaper QB. And then there's a bunch of guys in that 3K range. Hayden Hurst, for some reason, people are like forecasting, the Bengals to go pass heavier with Joe Mixon out. So he's, a couple points higher than we're used to seeing. There's a bunch of guys like, I don't think anyone is going to be super chalky at tight end. I think in small fields, it probably condenses around these top three, but they are really good comparatively.
yeah,
But I think it's a good week to kind of stack your tight ends. You know, you can play kind of who you want in cash. I think it just depends on like what you want to do. I put in Mark Andrews here because it fit, but I think you can't go wrong with any of these top three. It just depends on how like the puzzle pieces you like it.
yeah. I don't have any super strong opinions on tight end this week. I agree with most everything you said. The one thing I'll note about Travis Kelsey is like, I mean, talk about like just an efficiency smash like this entire season, and
Yeah,
7,700. Like, I get it. Like, he's as consistent as they come, and he just always puts up his points. But like, you got to think to yourself, like, dude, he is 7,700 and DeAndre Hopkins is 7,700. Like, that is so fucking expensive for a tight end. I don't
dude, he's
know.
worth
It's
it.
just,
I really
yeah.
like
Oh,
him.
that's the crazy part, is that he is worth it, and it does make sense. But I don't know. It still just kind of scares me. I don't, because of the Juju and Sky Moore Watson stuff and just the game script and all that. It just feels like a week that Kelsey may not, get 4 touchdowns and just run like crazy. So I'm not getting there. That's just not how I want to spend my salary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I do have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that there was this tight end funnel thing that
Mm-hmm.
happened the entire like last 3 years, like every single
More
week,
than that, yeah.
and yet nobody is going to play it. Is this like a secret? Am I being psyops? Like, what's going on?
You
Because
talking Gerald
I'm
Everett?
going to play Gerald Everett,
Yeah,
and one of the main reasons I'm going to play Gerald Everett is not only the Arizona tight end funnel thing, but I don't really like Keenan Allen. But
I
just
agree.
watching the game, I do think that Keenan Allen makes their offense actually work. Like, he's just this possession guy that's just always there for Justin Herbert to move the sticks, and he has no A dot anymore and all that kind of stuff. But I do think he's net really good for the offense just to be better.
Yeah.
And I think that gives Gerald Everett and Austin Eckler are going to have better opportunities because he's back. And I'm going to play some Gerald Everett.
I dig that for sure. It's a good game environment. There's definitely targets there for him because Mike Williams is out. So like if people are used to, I guess we haven't seen Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and Gerald Everett probably all healthy for better part of 2-3 months, but it's just a price that people aren't clicking. Same thing with George Kittle at 5,300, where it's just the you're paying most people are paying all the way up, or they're doing the 3,300 thing. So I think Everett and Kittle are just bets on like these guys get 15. Like if they score and like they can score and get volume. A lot of these other guys are just like fall into the end zone, get you 10 points.
Right.
Everett and Kittle are a path to like they can score and go like 6 for 60 type thing, and that's really meaningful. I think, especially if Andrews and Kelsey don't go nuclear.
Yeah, I am sad about the weather situation because I will tell you the Bears just without Justin Fields plus our coaching style and the way our season is going, that we are going to skew way more run heavy. When
Yeah,
the truth of the matter is Trevor Simeon can actually kind of throw the ball just a little bit. Now
I think we have to
obviously
move on. Or
he's
the
a backup.
producer's in my ear. He's
I
telling
was
us we
just going to
can't keep up
say
with
that
Trevor
Cole
Simeon.
Kmet would have been interesting. Not Simeon, but Cole Kmet
Right.
would have been interesting.
You can imagine what it would be like. Frankie loves Gerald Everett.
Let's
First
go,
game on the
Frankie.
slate. So Tampa Bay.
Tell the producer to go fuck himself too.
I
All right,
think I'm the
let's go.
producer. I'll get right on that. Uh, Tampa Bay, Cleveland, 42 team total or game total. Tampa Bay, 3-point favorites on the road. Obviously, Rachaad White, we were talking about, is going to be chalky. Chris Godwin is going to be fairly chalky. And I think he's the type of guy that might get steamed up in smaller fields because people love playing Chris Godwin. Rightfully so. He's a baller. Not much else, like free license to play what you want. I'm curious if you are playing any Tampa passing stuff, if you're bringing anyone back from that, if you're just playing the Tampa Bay side. What are you doing in this game?
I'll be honest with you. I didn't realize until you just pulled this game up that I don't have a single player from this game selected as of yet. I
Mm.
do have a couple lineups that I want to build. Yet I don't normally build most of my lineups till after the show, but in my head, there's a couple things I want to do with Rachaad White that involve like the Jeff Wilson fade, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, no, I don't have any interest here at all.
Yeah,
Now
I'm
that I
on.
said that out loud, I kind of wonder if I'm going to make a Nick Chubb lineup in the rain. He's just so good. I
He
don't
is.
know.
It's so hard this week. It's so hard to see like Nick Chubb can get you like 25, 28 points, and you're like doing victory laps, and then everyone else gets like 18, 19, 20 points at like cheaper. Like
Yeah,
I don't think Nick Chubb. I think it's
that's
too
what's
open.
scary to me is I think they talked about it on Established a Millie because I was like, I think it was actually my lock of the week was CMC, the week that they always talk about, where
Mm-hmm.
he put up like 35 and there was so much value that he didn't matter. He
Yeah.
didn't need it because he was 9,100 or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm actually on the I'm showing like pretty good leverage on Brady. He's a good price pivot off of Gina. Like I don't know that again, I don't know quarterback ownership matters so much, but every quarterback that people want to play is like 6K up. So you going to Brady
Yeah.
gets you a little different. If Rachaad White is on 1/3 of rosters, I don't know how much overlap that's going to have with Godwin. Mike Evans obviously is like one of the best touchdown scorers in the NFL at any position. So I can see a story coming off of the bye that they just really want to run it up here. And maybe Rachaad White gets them playing like a more interesting offense versus putting it in Lenny's belly and getting the 3-4 yards at a time type thing. So I like Brady doubles. I have to decide if I'm bringing it back. If I am, I think I like DPJ the most, but I don't on this week. I don't think you need to over game stack these like 42-point games because I think Brady
Yeah.
can get there without being pushed. Just like he gets there on 303.
Yeah, I agree.
And yeah, Brady like because Brady's a little cheaper than the quarterbacks, and plus these receivers are relatively cheap too, relative to like DeAndre Hopkins, let's say, or Godwin Evans are like the same combined price as Lockett and Metcalf. So So from that perspective, like playing Brady lets you do a lot of things, and it's leverage off of Rashad White potentially.
Yeah,
Rashad White can catch the ball, so I'm deciding if I'm playing Brady with Rashad White or without. I think you probably get better leverage playing the double without Rashad.
I agree. I don't think I would want to play Brady with Rashad.
Yeah. Njoku also, last thing on this game, Njoku is interesting in that he's a tight end that actually has a ceiling, like in a vacuum, like he's actually hashtag good athlete. I don't know that it's the greatest game, but in a millie, I kind of like the Njoku bring back just to get different tight end correlate. That we talked about correlating the tight end one less thing to get right at a position that is like so hard to matter. Njoku
Yeah,
is like one of I don't know a handful of guys that might actually matter.
I think Njoku, the question there, and probably is why he's so unowned, is just he came back last week and played 25 snaps. So, you could tell yourself a story that they're kind of easing him back, right? And that
Mm-hmm.
his workload will increase. But I do think you can also tell yourself a story that they're just kind of deep at tight end. They like Harry and they're going to
Yeah,
split, and maybe he goes up to 30 snaps. So I don't know, but it is a little bit scary. But I mean, at 3,600, he does have a ceiling, and
yeah,
he's not getting owned. So I see it.
yeah. In large field only for me.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
this game, keep an eye on the total because I don't care about the weather yet, but if Vegas tells me to care about it, I will start to care. Um, Cincinnati is at Tennessee, 43-point total, which is actually fifth highest on the slate. Cincinnati's small favorite on the road. Samaje Perine is going to be chalky-ish. T. Higgins, Hayden Hurst going to be chalky. Burrow is a kind of guy that I think is going to get steamed as you go up in stakes because people played Burrow last week. I was surprised, man, because we talk like Tennessee's at home, and like I respect Vrabel and their defense and what they do to limit teams, but then the Packers kind of were able to have, maybe it was just Christian Watson, but like, are people not scared of Tennessee? Because I think that this game is going to get sneakily steamed, and it's not like such a good game environment. It's just we kind of like the Cincinnati's concentrated, right? So that's why people like it, I think.
Yeah. But are they concentrated?
Yeah.
One of my favorite plays of the week is in this game and is not named T. Higgins or Derrick Henry or Treylon Burks. Well, he's partially named Treylon Burks.
Uh huh.
But I don't understand why Tyler Boyd's 2% under
Yeah.
6K.
Yeah.
And I'm just, again, you kind of just need to tell yourself stories in these games and stuff, like how you hit. Like, I like the way JM explains when you tell yourself stories of how you can strategize. And
Hmm.
for me, the story here is like Joe Burrow's in a smash spot. Tennessee can stop the run very well, especially against old bags of garbage like Samaje Perine. And so he's going to focus on T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow, I think, has absolutely no preference as to who he's going to throw to and who they're scheming
He'll
targets
chase
to.
out.
And I just think that Tyler Boyd is next man up, and I think Tyler Boyd's going to have a big game. And then on the other side of this game, I do think that Cincinnati's going to struggle to stop the King. I think King Henry gets going here, and we've seen, based on like Vrabel's comments about like, well, who's Malik going to throw to when Burks was out? Like Robert Woods and NWI's had some bigger plays, but
Hmm.
they really like Burks,
Yeah. Burke's coming on.
which is weird because in the preseason, I think it was the
It's
whole
time.
tough love thing, like grow up rookie, like, basically but at the end of the day, he really likes him because the moment he came back, and Tannehill does too. Like there's clearly a
Oh yeah.
connection there. So I do think they got a really good yin and yang thing going there where it's like, we're going to start with Derrick Henry. And if that goes well, we're going to keep going. And then, we're going to move to the pass. And then if you bottle up Derrick Henry, they start getting the pass going. And Tannehill's, he's not going to set the world on fire, put up any 40-point games or anything like that, but he is ultra efficient and in terms of moving the sticks and keeping the offense going. And I'm going to have a lot of Treylon Burks this week.
Yeah. I like Burks a lot. I mean, it's week 12. Like, this is when your rookies are like really going to start to come into their own. Plus, like Robert Woods might start to be like breaking down and like he's just not explosive like to start the year, let alone week 12. Derrick Henry for me is tough because like I do think in a vacuum, like it's good leverage on this slate to play Derrick Henry in like what might be an interesting game environment at single digit ownership. But like we can see a sneak peek here. Like Jeff Wilson is 2.5K less and projected for more points. I don't know if that ends up being
Right.
right, but like it's so hard to click Derrick Henry. Burrow, I think, grades out really favored. Like from a leverage perspective, I do think he gets steamed as you go into smaller tournaments and things like that. So, but I do like the Burrow doubles, and I love Traylon Burks. Again, Burks I think is going to be closer to like 15%, and things like the Spy as an example. But yeah, I would not worry about that in Cincinnati builds. So I do like this game, and I'm hoping that the weather scares people, and then that the total stays at 43, and then you can play it pretty cleanly.
Yep.
And I like the doubles too. Like Hayden Hurst grades out well. It's like hard. It's I did think it's narrow because Jamar Chase isn't there, but like T Higgins, Boyd, Hurst, and even Trenton Irwin is actually getting like red zone looks. And like to your point, I think Burrow
Yeah.
just throws to like the open guy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think he doesn't give no shits. And
so
I'm going to
maybe
give
touch it more.
not financial advice, GFY, but for pick'ems, Traylon Burks is giving up 6.5 yards to Robert Woods in the rivals. That's free money. Like, pick Traylon Burks over Robert Woods, give up the
Yeah,
6.5 yards, and you got a square that is completed.
free square.
Oh yeah,
Underdog.com/already free square.
not financial advice.
Yeah, so I do like this game. Another, I don't know if I like this game, but I definitely like players from this game. He's in that Miami 46.5 total, Miami over 30 point total. Houston obviously is really bad against the run. People seem to think that they're good against the pass, but that's also definitely not true. They're just bad enough against the run that teams don't need to pass. So curious how that plays out. Jeff Wilson's going to be, I think, the highest owned play of the year, and for good reason. Tyreek is going to bring some. I don't know that Waddle will. So I think if you play anyone besides Wilson and even Tyreek, like this game is going to be fairly low owned besides those two super good pieces.
Yeah. I think that for Super Omega Large Field, the Big 20 Max and the Millie Maker, I think it's fun to build a Kyle Allen lineup.
Oh,
I mean, $4,800, and what if they have a little spark and it's a way to play the game different and blah blah blah. Like you can spend up, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm not recommending that, but it is
yeah.
fun to put that lineup together. So
No,
just
that's
tell
fair.
yourself, "Ooh, what if Kyle Allen is really likes Brandon
Yeah.
Cooks and now he's happy?"
So just play Brandon Cooks, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, this game it feels like a trap, right? It feels like the only thing that can happen is that Jeff Wilson gets 100 yards and 5 touchdowns, and
Yeah.
but there is a world where, Mike McDaniel they have a very pass efficient, pass heavy offense, and they like to, run the ball to keep the sticks moving, but they do like to pass regardless of the situation. And, I, I think when you're fading this game, you're just hoping that they kind of spread it out a little bit. Everybody just doesn't get there, but overall the team gets there. But yeah, I'm going to play a lot of Jeff Wilson Jr., nearly a lock. Like I don't like
I
to
have him in every
lock
lineup.
anybody to ruin my whole day, but basically 90% I'm going to have Jeff Wilson.
Yeah. I have him in
But
every
I am
lineup.
scared.
I have him in every lineup. If I am not playing Jeff Wilson in a lineup, which I mean I am in everyone, I think you have to play someone from this game because even if Miami doesn't get to 30, like they're definitely getting to 21 or 24. And if Jeff Wilson doesn't get there, that means someone else is. Just because talk about concentrated offenses, like this is definitely a concentrated offense.
Yeah.
Are you playing any Tua? Because like
No.
he's interesting if he doesn't get like a bunch of ownership like Waddle, like the Waddle stuff. But I think Waddle is priced too close to Tyreek. And I think as you go up, like in the Spy, as an example, Devontae Adams, I was arguing with someone about this before. Now I'm going to renege on that because I think Devontae Adams is going to get steamed up above Tyreek because people don't want to click Wilson and Tyreek. So I actually do like the Wilson Tyreek combo and just say like, fuck you, this game, like Miami's going to go like It saying on average Miami scores 30, like that means they get over 30 half the time, right?
Right.
And if that happens, they can both easily get there, and that combination might not be super owned.
I have a question. Like,
Yes.
why can't now? I'm not saying play Kyle Allen, but why
No, no,
can't
no.
Kyle Allen be a bit more efficient and just not super terrible like Davis Mills was, and they're able to move the ball a bit, and Damian
That would be
Pierce
great.
becomes
Oh,
very in play
oh yeah, yeah. Thank you.
because
Um,
he got
yeah,
hurt more than anyone else, even more than his receivers by Davis Mills. Just be, I mean,
I agree because they
when
could
it's
just can't
run
move the ball.
when it's run pass punt and you just cannot move the ball and nothing's happening and there's no threat from the quarterback, like that's really bad for him.
Yeah,
So I can see a world where Kyle Allen is efficient, just a guy that can just kind of operate the offense and move the sticks for a few drives in the game. And I think that Damian Pierce could be flying under the radar just a little bit, mainly
yeah,
because Miami's defense. I mean, they've improved with Bradley Chubb, but you can run the ball on them.
yeah. They've given up some games. Like Brees Hall had a big breakout game, and
Mhm.
I don't know that Damian Pierce is as good as Brees Hall like explosiveness, but Damian Pierce, I mean, broken record here. Like I do think he's like hashtag pretty good.
Yeah.
So I do like bringing back because a lot of guys will not be bringing anyone back. Everyone's going to be single digits. I think Nico Collins again is good leverage off of Garrett Wilson. I think Damian Pierce for the same reason is good leverage off of like Rashad White or Samaje Perine in that range. Like if you play Jeff Wilson with Damian Pierce, like you're like it's going to be so low. Like Pierce is going to be 8%, I think
Yeah.
maybe even less. Um, and very little of that. I think like people are going to be playing the stacks. Brandon Cooks, I don't know. Like, I don't think Brandon Cooks can bury you. So I think I'd rather just be low on Brandon Cooks
Yeah. I
and
don't
say
think
it's like Nico. They're like that it's more Nico. So I will be playing some Nico and Damian Pierce. I'm going to be playing Wilson, Tyreek. I don't know that I'm going anywhere else here.
Yeah, and I just can't play Tua because he's the same price as Burrow, and I just think Burrow's a better play in a vacuum.
Yeah. I think unless Tua has that game that he did against Miami, which like, or not Miami, he's on Miami, against Baltimore, where that game, like, they got
That would
pushed, right?
require
Or they
Houston
were
to do
playing.
something that they can't do. Yeah.
Yeah, that was because they were down like 3 touchdowns and Tyreek Hill had 30 points in the fourth quarter. So I'm not going to play Tua because I don't think they're going to be pushed, but I think you can get 80% of his production through Wilson and Tyreek.
Yeah.
Speaking of fun games, this is not one of them. 38.5 total, which is not the lowest on the slate. Chicago's at the Jets. It's going to be raining and gross here in New Jersey. Garrett Wilson, despite that, I don't know that he's going to end up at 28%, but I think fairly safe to say he's going to be the highest owned cheap receiver. Nobody else is going to be owned in this game, probably rightfully so. Are you going to tell me otherwise?
No, nobody's going to be owned. Before this game turned into a land hurricane, I had some Tyler Conklin interest just to kind of get a piece of
Yeah,
maybe Garrett Wilson failing, and he's had some spike games. And,
yeah.
if it wasn't this situation, I think he could be a decent play. And I also, again, think that Trevor Simeon could be a little bit more efficient than Fields in terms of actually giving pass catchers more volume. So I was looking to do some commit stuff. That's now completely gone.
You're not looking
But I
to ride
do,
the Trevor Sibian machine?
nah, no. I do wonder though. I mean, the Bears are probably going to run this ball 40 times a game. Like, if it's slippery or the Jets defense is good, so I imagine hopefully they'll just kind of shut it down. But
Mm-hmm.
there is a world where just that's a ton of volume that that could be a problem for nobody playing
Yeah, the
Montgomery.
Montgomery role was definitely good last week, and he got there for sure.
I
It's
think
not a
most
great
people are
environment.
betting on just not having the threat of Fields and Simeon there
Yeah,
just hurts the running game's opportunity, and that's most likely true.
yeah.
But who
Any
knows? When you
Mooney interest because he's like
nah,
completely unknown. Yeah, I don't either. Another one that I like wasn't thinking of, like the simplest one is like playing Corey Davis as like Garrett Wilson leverage, but I think that's like too cute. I do like Conklin. He's cheaper than Hayden Hurst chalk at 3,300. You get Conklin at 31 and leverage off of Garrett Wilson. It's probably plus EV to just play like Burks and Conklin instead of Wilson and Hayden Hurst, let's say. You give
Yeah.
up like 1 or 2 points of projection, and you get, I don't know, a third or a quarter of the ownership. Um, Jets defense also worth mentioning. They are 3,300
Yeah.
and are probably going to be the second highest owned. They're fine. Like defense, I kind of plugged in Chiefs without talking about it. Like the Chiefs are going to be 40+% owned in small field. I'm just not going to let the Chiefs beat me in large field. Like just play whatever defense kind of fits. What do you? I don't love Jets chalk defense because, to your point, I think the Bears. Like think of like what's his name? Arthur. Is it Arthur Smith?
Mhm.
Like I think they can come out with an Arthur Smith game plan. And like for some reason, if the Jets are up 17-0, I think the Bears are going to just be running the ball because it's like gross sloppy and they just don't want to lose because of Trevor Simeon type thing. So I don't know that you
Yeah,
get the
I
pass
mean, their
attempts.
opportunity to sack the quarterback and to intercept the quarterback is definitely going to be limited because
Yeah,
I don't think there's a world where in this weather Trevor Simeon is going to throw the ball all over the yard.
yeah,
I just don't think that that can happen. But you know, who knows? Fumbles and weird stuff on special
yeah.
teams in the wet rain. I don't know. But last thing I'll say is I do think you could play Michael Carter or James
Oh
Robinson
yeah,
as direct pivots off of insane chalk. They're both set up to
yeah,
they're both in a good spot.
yeah. Dink did flag plant Mike Carter. I think he
Oh,
like
did he?
yeah. It makes
Wow.
sense. It's obviously it's a price pivot off of the 5K running backs. Um,
Hmm.
it's hard it's hard to see the absolute ceiling, but you can, Mike White did check down a bunch. I don't know how much of that is just like random circumstance and is going to translate to this game against the Bears, but the Jets with a 22 total is pretty high for them, because they're at home and the Bears are not super imposing matchup. So you are going to give up, 4 or so projected points to go down from, Samaje Perine, let's say, to Carter, but I think that makes a lot of sense. Plus, it's leverage on Garrett Wilson. I do like Mike Carter a lot, for sure.
Yeah, I like him outside of the check down stuff. Like, I don't know if historical check down percentage is actually like a predictive stat in any way.
Yeah,
I kind
it
of
could be
think
like
it
game.
totally isn't because it's just it has to do with the game plan, the game flow, what the defense is doing, and
Yeah,
I don't know. But either way, he's in a really good spot.
yeah, I agree. Atlanta's at Washington, 40.5 total. Terry McLaurin is still a little too cheap. Otherwise, this game is going to be pretty like hands off for me. Uh,
Yeah.
Kyle Pitts is finally not on here, which sucks because I guess our opponents were still clicking Kyle Pitts. Anything you
Yeah,
like in this game?
no, I took my medicine last week trying to run on Washington. Apparently, their run defense is pretty good. So, the combination of their run defense being good and the four-headed monster that Artie
Yeah.
runs in Atlanta, and I'm sure that he would use 5 or 6 or 7 if we didn't have 53-man
Hmm.
roster requirements. Like
Yeah.
that's just the way it seems to go. So 0, 0, 0 interest in Atlanta
Yep.
and this game for the most part, outside of a little bit of F1. And tight end pricing has gotten really rough that,
I like Logan
at
Thomas.
3K Logan Thomas, if he finishes your roster off for you, I think is fine.
Yeah.
I don't have a whole lot of interest, but I think he's fine.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like Logan Thomas is definitely fine. Like him versus Hayden Hurst, like projected points, 3 point difference, like fine. Like they both like in their most likely games score like 6, and if Logan Thomas happens to get in,
Right.
you're gonna be wishing that you had him. Terry McLaurin is a guy that doesn't scare me in this matchup because I can't see Atlanta forcing. Like I think Washington can play a fairly neutral script. I'd much prefer to see them in a game where they're like forced to pass. Um, so McLaurin, like he is too cheap, but he doesn't scare me to
Right.
fade a whole lot. Antonio Gibson is another one of those price pivot guys where if Brian Robinson was out, I would love to play Gibson. If Gibson was out, I'd love to play Robinson. The fact that they're both there, hard to see a path to 20 points for either of them. And I do think you probably want a path to 20 points this week at running back.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be mostly off this game, maybe Logan Thomas. I do like Chris Godwin a lot more than Terry McLaurin. So I'm probably not going to be on much McLaurin myself. But Atlanta is really not a difficult matchup, and there is like the Heineke thing is real. So there are cash builds where McLaurin versus like Godwin or Keenan Allen or whatever makes sense. So keep that in mind in cash for sure. Puck,
Yeah, Buck.
good morning. So Denver at Carolina. Do you think this is the lowest total game at 36.5 in like years and years, like maybe since like Tim Tebow was playing for Denver? But it's Russell Wilson versus Sam Darnold. Hooray. 36.5. Despite that, Latavius Murray is going to be chalky-ish. I think he's going to get squeezed down to much lower than 20%, especially in small fields, as we kind of talked about earlier. Carolina actually is like a halfway decent. Like both these defenses are actually halfway decent, even though both teams suck, which is why you see these totals where they are.
Right.
Any interest in this game, skill position wise?
First off, I want to ask a question. Like, if the Jets game wasn't like a rain out land hurricane, would you rather see Russell Wilson versus Sam Darnold
Right.
or Mike White versus Trevor Simeon? Because I kind
Yeah.
of think I'd rather see Mike White versus Trevor Simeon. These
Yeah.
quarterbacks are so bad. I mean, wow. I'm gonna play some Latavius Murray as a pivot, mainly because I agree with you. I think especially as the contests get smaller and or sharper, people are going to play less Latavius Murray than they
Mhm.
otherwise would. And he's the cheapest of the value running backs. And I think his role in the red zone and in the offense is the most secure in terms of like opportunity.
You're talking about some
So
Marlon Mack stuff, but yeah.
I just can't see a world where Marlon Mack doesn't get 6 carries or something like that. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, anything can happen in the NFL, obviously, injuries and stuff like that. But I think Latavius Murray has a workhorse role this week, and at 5K, I'm going to play some of it. I
Yep.
do think that Kendall Hinton is interesting, just in that his price has only risen a little bit, but when he plays, he clearly is playing every snap and clearly has like a role in targets and even including the touchdown that allegedly is not a touchdown. I still don't think that's actually true, but
Mhm.
you don't get the points is the point. But
Correct.
he did score a touchdown, just they just didn't give you the points. So I do think when you're trying to save money, Kendall Hinton, if he's in play last week, how is he not in play this week? And then on the other side of the ball, less than zero interest. I mean,
Yeah.
there is,
Henry,
Dante Foreman can get a lot of opportunity and usage here. I just don't like his chances to do anything with that.
Broncos at 3,800 are probably in play. Where's Carolina? At 3K is definitely in play as a Chiefs pivot. Dante Foreman, I don't know, like with Chuba Hubbard there, I don't know that Foreman owns enough of that backfield to really separate.
Yeah,
He's going to need to score twice, and even then, like, would there be anything worse than like you nail Dante Foreman? He scores twice, but gets like 70 yards or something, and he
right,
has 19 points, and it doesn't matter because everyone else also has 19 or 20 or more points. So
right.
I'm off of Foreman. DJ Moore is interesting if you think like Sam Darnold is better for him than PJ Walker and Baker Mayfield. It's hard to see how he'd be worse. I think they might have something there. So at 5K, like I can sell myself on some DJ Moore as the last man in. I don't know the ceiling there, but I like Latavius Murray. No
There's
one is playing zone
very
either.
there's very few like specific defensive matchups that make me rethink, about DFS. Like, ooh, you don't want to do this. The one that there is Sam Darnold to DJ Moore versus Patrick Surtain. I'm just gonna now
Yeah,
wave that hard pass. No, thank you. Like, I
yeah,
just feel like there's just such a skill differential there in terms, especially more so in the quarterback, that I'm just not interested in. The last thing I'll say is, Denver defense at 3,800 maybe pay up to be contrarian kind of a thing.
yeah,
I typically do not like spend. Nobody likes to spend money on defense for the most part, but I especially don't like to spend money for a West Coast team going east at 1 o'clock, and
true.
it's typically not a great situation.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I'm having a hard time not jamming Chiefs, which is probably wrong in the Millie Maker. I'm going to force myself to be under that 40%. one thing like Dolcic, as we're talking about, like Njoku, like Dolcic, like since Alberto was cast away, like comparatively, like this is a pretty good role among tight ends, like 9 targets, 5 targets. So like, and he gets used down the field too. So at 3,700, I don't think he's going to be. I think you can get him under 10% because people are going to be wanting to pay less than this. So there's pieces like I would not game stack this, obviously.
Yeah.
Max one guy from this game probably.
Oh yeah.
Baltimore at Jacksonville, 43.5 somehow is the fourth highest on this slate. Baltimore, 3.5 point road favorites. Lamar not owned very much. Mark Andrews is going to be, in that top tier of the tight ends. Everyone else is fairly off the board. This game is like maybe there's something to this game if you're trying to like the next two that we're going to talk about are going to be more owned, and this doesn't have a bunch of ownership, so you can stack this one up if you'd like.
Yeah, I have mild interest in like Baltimore's pass defense is pretty bad. So like originally I was thinking I'm gonna play a little bit of T-Law stacks with Kirk and Zay Jones, maybe some Evan Ingram, something like that. With obviously Andrews as the bring back. But I don't know, just kind of weather stuff. I don't know yet. I'm not sure. I do think it's interesting, and I do think you can pass against Baltimore, and I do think that Baltimore can, run the ball all over them. So the game script could be good for like a T-Law kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure. Lamar again, you get him under 8%. There is this narrative out there that like Lamar hasn't been good at fantasy for like the last 2 years outside of like 4 spike games, something like that.
Yeah.
But that stuff is hard. It's hard for that to be predictive, and who knows? I do think you can play this game stack it both ways, especially just because of the ownership pivots and stuff like that. And
yeah, I do like
fun.
Lamar. I don't think that Lawrence has the ceiling. I mean, I guess they are at home, but I don't think they have the ceiling for Lawrence to separate at QB. You're taking on too much uncertainty, and it's not really going to do anything for you. I do like Lamar at 7%. Like he to me is like, I don't know if this is a bad example, like Derrick Henry, where like you just play him when he's low owned and you feed him when he's high owned, and you just like hope he doesn't bury you with 100 plus rushing and 2 touchdowns. I like Lamar because Philly or West Coast Philly GM. I like Lamar because you can stack him. Obviously, everyone is going to play him. Like 80% of Lamar lineups have Andrews, but I really like Demarcus Robinson. His usage has been like legitimately good. Robinson, I think, is like semi banged up. Duvernay's banged up. But like at 3%, I think Demarcus Robinson gets you off of that Garrett Wilson. And like that's like my theme is like how do you get off of Garrett Wilson in sharp ways that matter? So I really like Lamar, Robinson, Andrews. And in those lineups, I think you can pay up a bit for Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk has been getting like super good usage. Travis Etienne, I think, is fairly in play. I don't love this Zay Jones, Marvin Jones stuff. Like I really wish one of them would retire so that we could play the other, but I don't know that I can play them if they're all healthy. So I'd rather just like kind of pay up for Christian Kirk in that. But I really do like the Baltimore double stacks in GM.
Okay, I love it.
And can I ask you to like please stop talking about Evan Ingram because you suck.
Did I talk about him?
Yeah. So now for our West Coast games, the 4:00, Jacksonville, I'm guessing is 1:00, right? So this is our first.
Yeah. It is.
So we have four 4:00, which is nice, and you have a lot of options at a bunch of different price points. These are probably the two biggest game stack of the week. LAC at Arizona at Coors Field. This is our first dome game, by the way, because we had 3 on Thursday. So this might be the first dome game that we've talked about. Maybe the only one on the slate. I'll have to look.
I heard there was 2, but I don't know what the other one is.
I don't know. Someone who
San Francisco's not a dome, is it?
No.
Is Levi a dome?
No, I don't think so. So if someone who doesn't host a football show can find us where the other dome is, let us know. I can't think of it. But 48.5 total, the number one on the slate. Chargers are a road favorite. Arizona very not imposing home field advantage. Kyler's back, and at 6,800, he's going to get some ownership. James Conner, I don't know that he's like, he's going to be second tier chalk. Hopkins going to be pretty owned. Keenan Allen's going to be pretty owned, and then a bunch of like second tier chalk. In this game, like a lot of guys are in play here.
Yeah, we talked about this game a little bit earlier. Definitely have a lot of interest in this game. I do have some concerns that this game is like being psyopsed and not talked about enough, that it's going to come in surprisingly overowned, because while you have individual ownership out there on pieces, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't show that this game is being stack owned, overly
Mm-hmm.
stack owned.
Mm-hmm.
So and I just cannot stop myself from building mostly Kyler side stack
Yep.
lineups, but also some Herbie lineups. And,
Yeah.
like I mentioned earlier, I do not like Keenan Allen at 6,100 in a vacuum.
Me neither.
But I do like what he does for their offense. I think he makes their offense work better. Just being the clear number one possession, no air dot kind of A dot kind of guy.
Yeah.
And you've got the Arizona tight end funnel I mentioned earlier. Gerald Everett, like, why is nobody playing him in the best tight end matchup in fantasy football for years?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. And then Kyler, I don't remember the last time Kyler was under 7K, unless it was like the last time he played and I didn't pay attention. But Kyler at 6,800,
Good price. Yeah.
he's looked similar slash better since Nuke has come back. Like early
Oh
in the
yeah.
season, he looked like a high schooler or something, like just a really, really bad, terrible quarterback. But since Nuke's been back, he's looked more Kyler-esque, and that hasn't really turned into too many wins and stuff. But it's good for fantasy stats.
Yep.
And Hollywood Brown is back. Last week they said if he was going to play, it was going to be on a pitch count. So I
Mm-hmm.
think the question is like, okay, well, is
I
there a
hope
pitch
so.
count this week, or is he more healthy this week, or what's up? But and then lastly, I don't think James Conner gets to 15%. I just don't see
Yeah.
how. People do not like clicking James Conner to begin with.
The
Maybe in the
role is super
afternoon
good.
he's the swap. Picks up ownership off of Kenny Walker for people that just lost every early game or something.
People
But
don't really talk.
I have a lot of James Conner interest.
Yeah, I like this game. I'm on the Kyler side over Herbert, but I can
Yeah,
definitely talk myself into Herbert too. I mean, there it's the same price, pretty much. I think I like Kyler because the Kyler doubles are so clean. Like I'm just playing Hopkins and McBride in every single one of them. Um, Bringing it back with Eckler, with Keenan and Eckler. I'm not playing much one off Keenan, but I will play it in this game environment. He's the kind of guy like similar to DJ Moore, let's say, where I'm never really scared of him burying you. Like he has
right.
very little recent examples of like absolute blow up games. But at 6,100, obviously, like he's a very comfortable click. He's the kind of guy that like people are gonna play him. He's gonna get, let's say, 14 points, and you're gonna feel decent about it, but it doesn't actually do anything for you. I think JM is like pretty big on that narrative,
Right.
but I think it makes sense in game stacks here. Well, I will say like Marquise Brown, 5,300. Like I'm not starting any lineup with him, but
Yeah, I'm
with
not
late
either.
swap, depend like if you are playing Jeff Wilson stuff and like that goes bad for some reason. This is really like Marquise Brown is like the skeleton key for like how do I get really fucking different and get leverage on the field in a meaningful way. Marquise Brown really does that for you. Um, Josh Palmer, I'm not sure about that ownership. Like that feels kind of high at his price. But there's
Yeah.
like what makes this game tough is there's like three or four guys on the Chargers, and um, it's hard to feel confident. But I think I'm gonna keep it narrow with like Kyler, Hopkins, McBride, Keenan, Eckler. I do like James Conner on teams where I'm not playing pass game.
Okay. I am going to play Kyler Connor Nuke with Gerald Everett on the other side. Hello?
That's different. That's definitely different.
Yeah.
Is AJ? Yeah. And again, if like emergency late swap stuff, if you end up on AJ Green, I wouldn't hate it for you.
I would. Come on. Trace McSorley's young. He's new. He doesn't know what he's doing. He just hasn't learned yet that AJ Green is dust. So Kyler knows that AJ Green is dust and will not
Yeah,
involve him the way
yeah.
Trace did.
Another thing, also, like everyone is expecting Dortch out. If Dortch is in,
Dortch is
people are
out
not.
already. Dortch is
He's
out.
confirmed out.
Well, now shouldn't be scooping you. I read that. Okay, so 11 hours ago, unlikely. I thought I heard
Yeah.
out.
So if he's in, that is definitely interesting because Dortch was going to be the chalk if he was in. So if you're playing, like, keep an eye out for Dortch if he's in, and you have like Justin Watson on teams to get onto Dortch if he's in.
All I'm going to say about that is I would love for him to be in with a thumb injury as a receiver because any
Uh-huh.
ownership he can catch, regrets.
Yeah. No,
I'm not playing it.
people don't late swap worry. Speaking of not late swapping, Vegas is at Seattle, 47.5 total, number 2 on the slate. So these are obviously the two games people are going to be targeting. Geno Smith going to be quite owned. Kenneth Walker going to be owned. I think Devontae is one of those, like, man, I thought I was getting him at 15. How did he get up to 30%, guys? Yeah, it's a good game environment.
Yeah, I really like Kenny here. I think that I the thing that worries me the most is like I don't know that the Raiders can actually like. I feel like Seattle can. It's just the Raiders are such a mess, dude, and
They're
I feel
bad.
like Seattle can get to a very negative Josh Jacobs game script pretty quickly. So I am concerned about Josh Jacobs, especially
Is there such
with
thing?
the with the injury news on Saturday, plus negative game script. In my opinion, I'm not going to be on Josh Jacobs at all, but I do think Devonte Adams is very in play.
Yeah.
I do think that people are off, like super off Mac Hollins because of like recency bias and just their offense. You know, he just doesn't have this consistent role or anything. But at any point in time at 4,400, Mac Hollins can be a good play. I
Yeah.
totally agree with JM in terms of what his role is. Like, if he is going to score, it's going to be with some downfield stuff and some red zone. Like, you know, he makes sense at under 5%, 4,400 as a direct pivot off of other things
Yep.
like Garrett Wilson. And then on the Geno side, it's just so gross. These guys have been the same price this entire season, and
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes they smash, other times they don't smash. I'm gonna play some Kenny Walker in lineups that it makes sense to play in, and then for the most part, I'm off of the Seattle pass attack because I do think this is the highest owned stack of the week is Geno plus pass catchers.
Yeah. Like Gino at chalk, I'm not worried about, but I was not worried in week 3 or 4, and that just added my week for me.
Mm-hmm.
I It's not that I don't believe in Seattle, just that I don't think that I think I can avoid Geno Smith basically at 6K.
Yeah.
If he's chalk, I'd much rather play the car side at a fraction of the ownership and feel better. What I don't love about Geno is, like, do you double him or then you're like flipping coin Lockett versus Metcalf? It's hard. Whereas if you're playing Carr with Adams, or you can play Carr Adams Hollins, you can play Carr Adams Moreau, and feel pretty good about that. So I much prefer that side, playing a Carr double with Kenny Walker, and then whichever one of those receivers um, fits. But this is definitely a big game. Ownership wise, I'm gonna probably decide some things. Josh Jacobs, like, as far as emergency swaps, if you have a flex spot open late and you're trailing, to get off of the Devontae Adams and onto Josh Jacobs, I think makes a lot of sense because nobody's going to play like, he's expensive. People don't like to click him, and everyone's playing Devontae Adams, and he's like, Jacobs is coming in banged up. We don't even know if he's going to play. If he doesn't play, that's kind of crazy too for running backs.
Yeah.
You got to be prepared to play Zamir White or Abdullah. I'd probably ignore it for now. But Josh Jacobs, if he ends up being a thing, if he's playing, like, I think it's a really good way to panic late swap. The Rams are at Kansas City, 42-point total, which is not holding back Kansas City's 28.75. I don't know that anyone on the Rams is in my player pool. I don't think I'm able to click it. Mahomes and Kelsey are going to get some ownership. Juju maybe, but otherwise, like, and Chiefs defense is going to be 40+% owned. Are you playing Kansas City side?
Um, I have a question. where does the Pacheco, whatever, where is that stuff coming from? Like, I
What do you mean?
looked at it last night after hearing, I don't know, Dink or someone talking about Pacheco.
Mhm.
Maybe it was Silva. He's
Yeah, Silva was on him.
5,500. He's 5,500. Like, I don't know. He just feels like a 5K or less kind of a guy. Just Andy Reid does not want to run the football. He doesn't want to run the football, and he also doesn't, especially
Of
want to
course
run
they
the
have to.
football in the red zone. And because he just makes passes that are runs, like
Yeah, that's why I like Kelsey.
I
I think Kelsey is the run game
yeah,
for the Chiefs,
no,
but
exactly. Like little dump offs, little
but is
screens,
this the
little
game? But is this
yeah,
the game? Like there's definitely been since their bye, an effort, and they've been like leaking it through the media and stuff. Like there's been definite effort to get Pacheco to like be the guy. So I think if this game script goes anywhere like it's supposed to, with Bryce Perkins led Rams, um, this is a good game to be like Pacheco. Are you our guy, or do we need to like elevate Ronald Jones type things, or do we need to go sign whoever gets cut? So that's why I think Pacheco. He's not like, listen, at 5,500. Like, do I want him or do I want Jeff Wilson? Of course, it's Jeff Wilson. Do I want him or Rashad
right,
White?
right.
Like, probably Rashad White, but I think Pacheco definitely, um, game script wise, this is like an A plus, dude. They're
I get it.
14 and a
I
half
get
point
it.
favorite.
I just don't think Andy wants a running back. Like I don't think Andy cares. I don't know. Anyway,
But there's
sorry to derail you, but I have some interest,
usage.
especially in Juju. We talked about it earlier. Juju's price is just flat out incorrect, based on what his role that we know his role is, and playing 10% or less than 10%. I'm definitely going to be over the field on that. I like that a lot. I'm not finding myself getting to too much Kelsey. Um, I will see. I will play some Patrick Mahomes with Juju, probably with no bring back.
No,
I don't.
I
I haven't built those yet, but I can't imagine playing a Ram.
yeah.
And
I
then
mean, Allen Robinson's out, but yeah, I don't think there's going to be
there's
any pass volume there.
some expensive lineups where I'm gonna have you know two or three lineups with Sky Moore. I like Sky Moore's arc and how his role and his usage is growing, and I don't know. We'll see.
I'm more on the Justin Watson side. I think his snap certainty is there, and like he gets like they use him down the field too. So I'm more on the Justin Watson side. I feel like like I'm gonna IKB like 5.5 feels way too low, especially if they think that like Juju is docked for some reason. So I'm curious about that. What's your stance on Chiefs defense at 40%?
I'm mostly just playing him. I don't want to argue about it.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
care.
tough because like, what do you play? Like cheaper than Chiefs defense? Do we want to quickly before the last game talk about if you're not playing Chiefs, like who cheaper than the Chiefs can you play?
I mean, I think technically, like you could play the Cardinals or the Jags,
Yeah,
but I just don't want to.
yeah. I think the
I,
Jags are
I I
fine.
don't criticize anyone for playing any of these defenses just because it's so not predictive at all. But I'm naturally kind of contrarian in my lineups for the most part. I'll do something stupid
Hmm.
enough that I'm just gonna ride or die with the Chiefs, and
Yeah,
in some
I,
cases
I'm.
I'm gonna pay for the Jets, and
Yeah,
it's just a wrap.
I think you can start the day with Chiefs defense, but if anything goes wrong
Yeah,
early for you, it's very easy to just go down to Arizona, because they're a late game too. Las Vegas against Seattle, like Vegas is bad, but if you need to change something up, you can do that. And same with the Saints against San Francisco. So
yeah,
you could definitely start if you want to start your day with the Chiefs and then late swap off of it. Like I think that's probably a good way to go about it. And then the last game, New Orleans at San Francisco. San Francisco is a 43-point total. San Francisco 26, actually pretty healthy. Um, their weapons, I think, are mostly healthy. I think Debo was at some point looking questionable, but I think he'll be in. Makes it really hard to like. This is another one of those offenses I don't like wishing for injury, but if one of these guys wants to take like a week or two off for personal reasons or something, so we can feel better about clicking them, I wouldn't hate it. But that's why you're going to be able to get them all pretty low owned any week, especially this one.
yeah. I'm interested in this game in a little bit of stuff. Like I'm not gonna have a lot of things going on here, but like Jimmy's playing really, really well, despite what our San
He
Francisco fans in chat, at least in terms of
keeps
fantasy,
going.
like
Keeps
Jimmy's playing
going.
well. I'm gonna play a little bit of Jimmy stacks with CMC and one of Kittle, Debo, or Ayuk, and bring it back with Olave and just maybe this is that one afternoon game that goes crazy or does something weird or I don't know. I doubt it just
Yeah,
because San Francisco's
43.
defense is really good, and I don't think Andy Dalton can. But I mean, Olave
Taysom
is a good receiver, and he could break something off, and
is
I
Taysom.
don't know. I think it's a
Taysom
fun
played like
game
18.
to stack a little bit.
I think Taysom played like 18 snaps last week, which I don't know. Maybe that's good for Olave. I don't think it's good for Kamara. Yeah, CMC is like the classic like pay up to be contrarian guy, but like his
Yeah,
expected points is like the same as Jeff Wilson, and you're paying 3K more for it, so it's like super tough.
yeah.
Um, Debo and Ayuk, it's tough to play them in like a blowout type game script when they're both healthy. But I do like we talked about Kittle, like if he's 2% because he's that price range that nobody likes, just give me Kittle because I think again he's one of those tight ends that can separate. He doesn't need much to get there either. Like we saw last week, I mean he scored 2 and probably only got 5 targets, but would it surprise you to have like a Kittle 8 target, 9 target type of game? No, it wouldn't surprise me. Eli Mitchell, like, no, I saw like some people are talking about it. Like, I think you're just taking on too much uncertainty at running back. Like, the opportunity cost for running back is too high to get that far off the board for me. So for me, it's really only going to be Kittle in this game. I could see the CMC thing, but I'm not in love with it. So
Okay,
do you want to lead off? I'm worried. I kind of want to go because I'm worried you're going to steal one of mine. So I want to steal it before you can
you
steal it,
go first.
or
You
to
go
fuck
first.
around and find
You
out.
you go first.
Um, Keep an eye on the weather, but I'm going to be ignoring it. I really do think, like, I like the Burrow doubles, and I think Tyler Boyd at 2% is a mistake. At 5,900, I think it's a good matchup for him. It's the middle of the Tennessee defense. Their cornerbacks are not super impressive, and Burrow can sling it out there. So I love the Boyd and Traylon Burks little mini there. I'll play it. I'll play them
Ah,
together. I'll play them on Burrow teams. I'll play them without Burrow. I think you get such good leverage. Boyd versus all the 6K receivers like McLaurin and Godwin. Burks off of Garrett Wilson, like correlation to boot. I'm going to do a little Boyd, Burks, mini.
well, you did steal one of mine, but I have
No.
many, so that's okay. This week, if you want to fuck around and find out about a little mini stack in the afternoon game, Arizona and the Chargers, we're going to fuck around and find out about James Conner on one side of the ball and Gerald Everett on the other side of the ball. James Conner is he's my smash of the slate. I'm going to
Yeah.
have him basically locked everywhere along with Jeff Wilson Jr. for the most part. I'll do a few lineups without Jeff, but Chargers just cannot stop the run. There's dump offs and things like that. Connor's just in a really good spot. He's really got a secure role. 6,600. I really like that price for him. And
It's, yeah,
we're
I think it's
we're
too
gonna find
cheap.
out.
Like James Conner, like 6,600, like this is a kind of role like 1 or 2 years ago. It's like the Lev Bell
Right.
type role where he's just like on the field for everything. So like last week they got blown out. So he only touched the ball, 14 carries, but 5 targets. Like, yeah, I think he can easily see 20 carries, 5 targets type thing in a good
And
game
I'm
like
basing
that.
that on,
I like that.
especially with those low A dot guys, Rondale, Greg Dortch being out and stuff. I think that's total bonus to James Conner and
Yeah,
the work that he does out of the backfield. I just think he's a smash. And then
it's a good
Gerald
match.
Everett, what else is there to say? It's theirs on a funnel. It works every week for multiple years. Why isn't
Yeah.
it going to work this week and ship me $1 million?
I'm going to stay for the second one in the afternoon. Um, Geno Smith is going to be in a lot of cash games, and he's at 6K. And you can go ahead and play Geno Smith into chalk. I'm going to go save $300, and I'm going to go play Derek Carr. I'm going to double him with Devontae Adams, eat that chalk, and I'm going to mix and match Mac Hollins, Foster Moreau. I really like this side of the game. It's a good game environment. Let me save the $300 and get 3% Carr versus 15% Geno, and you can bring it back with Walker and DK or Walker and Lockett. I don't know if it's going to be Lockett or Metcalf, but I like Carr because you can play Kenneth Walker and a receiver on the bring back. So I really like this game stack.
Yeah,
And because like Hollins and Moreau, one of them is going to be cheap, so you can do the double pay up for Seattle and just overstack this game. So
I
I like
like
the
it.
Carr side.
I like it a lot. You did steal my first one, which was going to be Tyler Boyd across from Burks. I love that stack, but fortunately, I think that stack works perfectly for the next man up, which is King Henry. I
Mm,
think that Joe Burrow doubles and are going to push Tennessee pretty hard, and I think the Tannehill's efficiency with Burks and stuff like that is going to open things up. And I think that Burks can get the yards, and the King finishes him off with 3 touchdowns. Why not?
there
Who
you go.
says no?
I would probably say no. I don't have Derrick Henry yet, but maybe I'll try and mix him in. All right. Sweet. Good luck, everyone. Inactives in just over a half hour. Keep an eye out. Vegas will let us know if the weather matters. I don't think it will. Good luck on the slate. We'll catch you guys next week. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.